So, a fun fact: you probably didn't know that Jabba the Hutt is used to be a transgender character in Star Wars: The Universe before Disney had bought it. So, Jabba the Hutt used to transition to a female character or female in order to produce an offspring, which you see as Rhoda the Hutt in some of the episodes of Clone Wars. There are a couple missions where the Jedi have to go and rescue Rhoda the Hutt. You also see that you do run into Zora the Hutt, and you also run into Mama the Hutt. So Mama the Hutt is a really ginormously obese Hutt character. And keep in mind, in this universe, the Hutts are from Hatada. This is their planet, which most of their buildings look like Jabba's palace in different variants. Also, they are I guess known to be quite ruthless. There was a Jedi at one time that was a Jedi Hutt of some sort, but the Force seems to avoid them because of their history with dark dealings or exploitation, extortion, blackmail, and also their dark dealings as kind of like a cartel boss. You see, but when Disney bought Star Wars, they decided to go with the decision that Jabba the Hutt is going to be male. Everybody's known him as that. Everybody is comfortable with him that, and he made the mindful decision that he is going to go with the acronym in which he was originally specifically mostly sought as, which was male. So he didn't have anybody peer pressuring him because he had a rancor. But as in that situation, um, also if we look at it and go into trans issues, if you do compare Jabba the Hutt to it, and it was originally one of the little known facts about him. Um, they wear hair pieces as a sign of status. Hutts can live over to be hundreds of years old. Um, they're notorious among the universe and the most feared species. They could, if they get buffed, they could be ruthless fighters as well. The Hutt puppet was it was a three-man puppet that was close costs around thousands of dollars, up to possibly $1 million just to create a Hutt puppet, which is why they only utilized Jabba the Hutt in a very few scenes. It was very tedious. It was two men in the top portion of the Hutt puppet and a midget or a little person in the bottom portion. And I don't know if you know it, but R2D2 was also played by a little person. So Jabba the Hutt again was specifically, although they did CGI him in various aspects in the Star Wars universe. He was actually originally, because like a frog, if you look at it, he does eat frogs and he does have preference for frogs. And one might argue you are what you eat. So he's kind of like a a slimy slug, right? And there is again, he's an alien species, a make believe character. So it's fair to say that there's possibility that to relate the two in reality from an alien character to now would be ridiculous, but his original intent by George Lucas was to make him a character who transitioned to an opposite gender just to reproduce, and then he would transition back whenever he felt like. Now we see a lot of Hutts doing that nowadays, um, and specifically that they're threatening to send you to the Rancor, blackmailing, extorting people, that we see with Jabba the Hutt's character and very Hutt-like behavior. Um, Again, and so Rhoda the Hutt, nobody after he was saved in the Clone Wars, nobody really understood what happened to him. There could be the reason that Lando and Lando was able to get so many starships to go after Emperor Palpatine in the final one of the final episodes, because he might have had connection to Rhoda the Hutt, or because he might be connected to the Hutt cartel. Lando did deal with a lot of dealings, including he gave over Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt. So, but originally Jabba the Hutt was, and he is happy so now. He's very pleased with the fact that he is now identified as male and doesn't have to confuse people of going from both ways when they decide. And I think Disney was very happy of having it that way too. Jabba, in my mindset, and always been, especially in childhood, I always thought of him as a male character. I just couldn't fathom the fact that he was a possibility. He could turn into Mama the Hutt at one time and reproduce offspring. Hair pieces in the Hutt universe are also considered status signs. And so, again, alien species that specifically used to transition in order to reproduce. Um, the Hutts live hundreds of years old, and they are one of the most ruthless and most notorious alien species out there. They also usually you only see them in high status among their followers, and they usually are sitting on their slabs or their thrones or their polished chairs and not doing much. So that's most of the time when they get lazy and as big as they do. The Hutts, because they're so much power and rich that they don't feel like they have to do much work. So they sit around and just act like slimy slugs and eat frogs and just hang around their group or what they relate to. But originally, the Hutts were supposed to be. They just made them strictly male. I think it's one of those for the better. Don't hate me for my opinion, but it's the way that I always seen them. I don't think that they should put glitz and glam on a slimy slug and have him act like Mama the Hutt. Although Mama the Hutt was a very comical character, I just don't see it the same way that Jabba was. Also, you could see Zero, which I think is a relative of Jabba. Um, they share the same coloring. So Zero and Mama the Hutt have the same coloring, slime and scales. They're about pink or light pink and purple. I think they're purple, light purple and dark purple. And so that's why you can actually see the relation between the two. Um, Also, she wears like a ridiculously large hairpiece that's so comically large, but that's how the Hutts are. Um, so again, the planet that they are inhabit on is Hatata. You also see that Bib Fortuna had taken the throne in Book of Boba Fett, and because of Book of Boba Fett the way it was, when Bib Fortuna, who took advantage of Jabba the Hutt's kindness, was mind tricked and let the Jedi's in. And then he was waiting, and you could tell he was waiting to inhabit the throne, and so he was there as the advisor, and he was waiting as conniving as Bib Fortuna is, as a conniving worm that he was, and also having very similar appearances, as one that kind of looks like Earthworm Jim, and the other one looks like a Hutt. I don't know if their species are related in sense, but I mean, obviously, in their alien species, one's more slug-like and looks like a giant turd with power, and the other one looks like it has a big old worm wrapped around his head. So I mean, but again, and it's a guarded by a palace full of pigs. Let's not forget that, and other alien bounty hunters, which they do a lot of dealings with. That's how Boba Fett came into the mix. Jabba the Hutt was probably one of the most rich individuals to be able to afford so many bounty hunters. And as you could see, even in the Hutt book of Boba Fett, after Boba the Fett took out the Lazarus pit, which those things are supposed to be invulnerable and semi invincible. Um, they're also like much larger than they appeared. So they have a whole entire cavern under the sand dunes. They're just this ginormous creature, and that one was supposed to be there for a very long time, which is what Jabba the Hutt used to feed. And it's the first time you get notice of it. Although they are, I think they also do fly in space, and I think they are like their own individual alien creatures in space. But they do like worms. They just kind of inhabit in the ground. Um, it kind of almost is like a dune worm, but I don't think Dune was around at the same time. Um, but again, Jabba the Hutt is basically around this character. This mindset of being a transmutating character who decided what gender he was, and at that point, when he decided to be the opposite gender, and it was only specifically for them to reproduce. Um, that's the only time they usually would